If You Lived in Colonial Times, pages 50 to 59. When did boys and girls work? Boys and girls were taught that work was good for them. In colonial days, people thought it was a sin to be lazy. So every morning, the children got up early and helped with the work. Boys worked before school, after school, and at night. Girls worked just as hard. Did children have any time to play? No matter how hard people worked, they always found time to play. Colonial children did not have as much time to play as you do, but when they did play, they had just as much fun. They played some of the games that you play today. They played tag and blind man's buff. They sang and played Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush and London Bridges Falling Down. What games did boys like to play? Most of all, boys liked to play ball. They played with a leather ball filled with feathers. Boys had tops to spin, drums to bang, pop guns to pop. They had hoops to roll, marbles to shoot, kites to fly. They had trees to climb and icy ponds to skate on. Their skates were made with wooden runners. What did girls like to do? Colonial girls played mostly with dolls. Their dolls were made of rags and corn husks. Some girls had wooden dolls. These dolls were not meant to be playthings. They were really fashion dolls. In big towns like Boston, the dolls were put on shop windows. When a wooden doll got too old to be used in a shop window, it was given away to some lucky girl. Girls sewed samplers. With tiny stitches, they made birds and trees and flowers and the letters of the alphabet. Girls made up mottos for their samplers, like this one. Were there special days just for fun? Sometimes when crops were good and everybody had plenty to eat, the people had a holiday. They set aside a special day to thank God for their good harvest. On that day, there was feasting and there was fun. Sometimes too many families got together to help build a neighbor's house. When the house was finished, the people had a party to celebrate. In many towns, a training day was held once a month. Men and boys ran races, held fighting matches, and took part in shooting contests. Prizes were given to the winners. Were there special laws about fun? In wintertime, coasting down snowy hills on sleds was against the law. Sledding was said to be a waste of time. In the summer, in some towns, swimming was against the law. Swimming was said to be a waste of time too. Ministers gave long sermons against dancing. They said dancing was a sin, but their sermons did no good. People danced anyway, and in large towns, dancing teachers gave lessons to children. Did people travel much in colonial days? No one in colonial days traveled just for fun. There was no easy way to travel. There were no buses, no cars, no trains, no planes. But there were wagons and horses and oxen and boats. Boats were the best way to go. Land travel was slow going. It was rough going too. Roads were narrow and bumpy and full of holes. When it rained, the roads were muddy. When it didn't rain, the roads were dusty. And in the winter, the roads were icy. Roads in early colonial days were really Indian trails. They were so narrow that two people could not walk side by side. How did people get across the water? On a horse, on a bridge of stone or wood, on a log. Most bridges were log bridges. It was easy for an Indian to walk across a log bridge. An Indian was used to it. But a colonial man was not, and so he might find himself off the bridge and in the water. How did people travel when there was snow on the ground? They traveled by pod and by pung. A pod was a sleigh pulled by one horse, and a pung was a sleigh pulled by two horses. People liked to travel in the snow. The snow filled in the holes in the road. The wooden runners of the pods and the pungs went easily over the snow. A trip might take a whole day or longer, so travelers took their supper with them, and they took a pot full of burning coals to cook it. They tied a big chunk of frozen bean porridge to the back of the sleigh. Whenever they got hungry, they chopped off a piece of porridge with their axes. This is the end of today's lesson.